Nora and Alec choose to stay in a questionable cabin and end up trapped in a cult-like group that treats them like animals. While driving to the countryside, they take a wrong turn and become lost. Nora becomes increasingly annoyed as they stop at an old diner. She needs to use a real bathroom and goes to the back of the diner, where she discovers some items from a previous camp, including a wallet and a phone. She throws them back and continues her journey, unaware of a human skull nearby. As they drive, they accidentally pass a group of human skeletons. Inside the car, Nora mentions a deserted campsite to Alec, but he's not interested, worried they'll run out of gas. They keep driving until they see a woman with a broken-down car. Alec offers to help her with jumper cables, and she agrees. While fixing the car, the woman asks Nora about Alec's marriage status. This catches Nora off guard, so she tells her it's none of her concern. The woman feels insulted by this response and says it's rude. Nora and Alec leave a woman without fixing her car because she didn't ask for help. Nora is annoyed with Alec for helping a grumpy woman. Alec says he was just being kind, but Nora's girlfriend prefers to avoid such situations. Later, they go to a diner and Alec feels uncomfortable when a strange man keeps staring at them. Nora tries to calm him down. The man seems curious about visitors. He grabs Nora's arm, telling her she's not safe in the town. Alec stops him, and they leave. Nora says the incident wasn't a big deal. Later, they find a cabin near a gas station. The cashier mentions it. The cashier keeps an eye on them. Nora wants to check the cabin before deciding to stay. Alec wants to take a break instead of risking accidents while driving at night. When they arrive at the cabin, they see many cars parked, indicating others might be there. Inside, Nora feels uneasy and suggests leaving, but Alec believes others are there because of the used plates on the table. They can't find anyone to help check in, so they head upstairs. Unexpectedly, the landlord, who looks unusual, welcomes them. He apologizes for not noticing them and asks about their origin. Alec says they're from Los Angeles. The landlord takes them to their cabin, which is far from the others. He tells them it was once a place for Boy Scout troops or church groups to stay, which is why there are bunk beds. Since the usual guests haven't been around, he turned the cabins into motels. Alec asks how long the landlord has lived there, and he says he's been there since 1989. He talks about how he found the place by accident and fell in love with it. He started working there to help fix up the cabins. The motel used to be owned by Mrs. Anderson, who died 4 years ago, leaving it to him. Nora interrupts their conversation and says they need a break. The landlord gets upset and slams the door as he leaves. Alec confronts Nora for being rude, but she says she's turned off by how he looks. While they talk, they don't see a blood stain on another bed. That night, they sleep peacefully, not knowing a figure is hiding under their bed. In the morning, the figure, wearing a sheep mask, reveals himself and gets closer to the sleeping couple. Nora wakes up in a cage and tries to escape but is stopped by another figure in a goat mask. He leaves, but Nora manages to break free with a stone. The figure returns, this time with another man in a cow mask, who drenches Nora. She wakes up in a barn, tied to a chair, and a rabbit-masked vet forces something into her. The woman is inseminated like a cow, and Nora can only scream. The vet leaves despite Nora's cries. She's weakened, unable to resist when two masked men take her to a barn. In a cage, she's dragged by a man in a cow mask. He shows her a community of masked people, each with their roles. Some are cleaning and building, others are butchering people. The wagon stops, and Nora is left in a stable. She tries to escape but fails. Women are held in stables, men in cages. Alec is also captured and has a muzzle. He calls for help, but the others are silent. 3 masked men enter the stables. They beat one captive man with a hammer. Alec is captured and taken to a slaughterhouse. He fights back but is overpowered. The captives are loaded onto a wagon. The man in the pig mask hides human limbs around town. He then helps a new captive into the stables. The man in the pig mask meets the town's leader, who orders 80 people to be fed. The leader demands the food be ready in 2.5 hours. The man in the pig mask and his team prepare food, but the client wants it earlier. They decide to use dairy cows for extra food. They also use cows to produce milk for the food. The story continues with Andrew, the gas station cashier, comforting a grieving mother. A woman curses at a man, who becomes angry and blames the women for being bad. Meanwhile, a customer complains about their ruined wedding due to finding a tooth in their food, and the landlord promises compensation. He ends a call when someone urgently needs the man in the pig mask. The landlord finds a dead woman with Andrew's name carved on her chest and orders his men to find him. Nora, a captive, reveals she's been held for 2 years and is dying but relieved. She learns another captive, Ashley, has been there for 2 weeks and they plan to escape together. Andrew, another captive, is found playing with human heads and is punished by helping with feeding the captives. He accidentally spills food and runs away. The man in the pig mask finds him and Andrew is thanked for his help. The landlord decides to look after Andrew and orders the men with the pig mask to get rid of a woman who can't produce milk. In the stables, men tie up another captive next to Nora. Nora sees a man in a pig mask kill her, cutting her open and dumping her guts into a bucket. Shocked, she falls to the ground, unable to comprehend what's happening. Later, the men leave, and the stables are silent. Suddenly, the door shakes, and Nora hides in fear. But she feels safe when Alec tells her to run away with him. They escape the stables, avoiding the farmhands. They find a truck that won't start, and a farmhand notices them. Luckily, a bell rings, and the men runs away. They hide in a church, where they find seats covered in plastic and a sharp object on the altar. Alec sees a mural of Jesus and his followers, but their faces are hidden behind masks. They see the cow-masked man from the window and hide before he enters. Nora tries to escape while he prays, but the floorboard creaks, and the men rings the church bells to alert others. They try to run away, but Alec gets caught in a bear trap. Nora tries to help but has to leave when the farmhands come. She hears the sound of Alec's head being crushed by a rock and continues to run. She hides in the male stables just before Andrew and the landlord arrive. They search the stables and Nora asks a captured man how to escape. The man tells her there's a working bus. Nora, a victim, is being transported by farmhands. She learns the location of the keys from a man named Ander, who then smiles at her as she leaves. On her way to the keys, she encounters a masked man driving a car, which she follows to a parking lot. There, she kills the men with a hammer. However, a farmhand appears, and Nora quickly hides in the car. The car struggles to start, but eventually, Nora escapes. She's then chased by the farmhands, who eventually corner her in the kitchen and basement. She manages to escape through a window but is then attacked by a man. She uses a sharp object to defend herself and runs away. Outside, she sees a bus that the man mentioned, which is close to Ashley's location. Ashley is scared but decides to accompany her. They realize they don't have the keys to the bus and go to a nearby house to get them. Nora finds the keys and starts the bus. She's relieved to be free but notices that Ashley is silent. They soon realize that the farmhands are waiting for them at the bus. The masked people surround the bus, and the two women are given apples to eat.